Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us for the invocation mantras. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriyet Shavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shamana Kirtanaha Hridayantastho He Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhatsatam Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavater Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Nashtiki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today we'll be covering some amazing lessons from Srimadbhagavatam.
So Prabhuji, are we still on Canto 1, Chapter 2?
Yes, we are in Canto 1, Chapter 2. Today the verse, I would say we'll cover two verses, 9th and 10th. Srimadbhagavatam, 1st Canto, 2nd Chapter, verse 9. Dharmasya he apavargasya nartho arthayupakalpate nathasya dharme kantasya kamo labhaya hi smritaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation, apavargasya. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Hare Krishna, please join us in Guru Pranati so that we get the blessings in the parampara. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarine Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tadaham vande Shri Gurum dina taranam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So this is a very sweet mantra with two very important lessons. And then the following verse further extends what should be the engagement. Dharmasya apavargasya. So whatever occupational duties one performs, it should be performed for certainly one reason. Here refers to certainly, which is apavargasya. Pavargasya, we talked about pavarga. Pa, pa, ba, bha, ma. Those are the, whoever knows the Hindi Vyanjan, the letters in Hindi grammar. So again, so there it is pa, pa, ba, bha, ma, and these five are called pavarga, which relates to material engagement, material life. So pa refers to parishram. But Srila Prabhupada, in Nectar of Devotion, he says, is actually the whole existence, material existence of birth, death, old age, disease. That can be referred to also as parishram, to one sustain us oneself. So by doing a lot of parishram, why is someone doing this parishram? Parishram is endeavor. Why is someone doing heavy endeavor? So as to gather more and more. So that's lust is driving it. And so that one can enjoy sense gratification. And when someone is doing heavy labor, then pur happens. Pur means pena. Just like in a horse, after a long race, you'll see that there is foam forming in its mouth. So when someone is doing heavy endeavor, what happens? The body gets really tired. The foam starts forming. And ba is bandha. So again, this is also referring, this bandha is referring to, but one is caught in this material cycle of doing very hard work, hoping to gather a lot, but getting really tired and still bewildered. So one gets bewildered. Bandha is like, they're caught up in this and they are not able to get the desired sense gratification that they started with. And what happens because of that? Bha happens. Bha refers to bhai. Bhai refers to fear. So one becomes very fearful. They're saying, I'm trying so hard, I'm getting really exhausted, and I'm just not able to get the desired results. What is there for me? What will happen? I have spent all this time in all these material activities, and finally, they try to do even hard work. So they, instead of understanding that they should be doing something more important, but Brahma Jigyasa is the path they should be taking. But instead of that, if they are constantly doing more parishram, causing more fena, which is more, disappointments, and then bandha, more caught up in this cycle. So it's like a catch 22 they're caught up in. Like a rat race, sometimes referred to as, or in a Ferris wheel, as how someone is going up and down. So this is where the living entity is caught up in this material world. And finally, encounters after bhaya comes ma. Ma refers to mrityu. Mrityu is giving up this body just to take another body and engage in the same sense gratification mindset in heavy parishram, having, pena, which is a lot of tiredness in the body, the foaming of the mouth, and finally causing that bondage to further increase and being fearful state again faces death. But apavargasya means ultimate liberation. So dharmasya, whatever occupational duty one performs, they are certainly to be performed for ultimate liberation. What does that ultimate liberation refers to? Engagement in devotional service, which simply starts with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nato atha. So the engagement, again, whatever one engages in for liberation, it should not be used for sense gratification. Right? Okay. So they should be not performed for sense gratification. So all material gains, why is someone looking for material gains? So that they can enjoy sense gratification. And furthermore, smritaha, as described by the great sages, that word has been used, that we should listen to those who are elders, those who are jnanis, those who have seen the truth. So when we follow in disciplic succession, sadhu, guru, and shastra, those are the three references, then what happens when someone is constantly engaged in natasya dharmakantasya? So when one is engaged in devotional service for ultimate liberation, what will happen? That there will be some, material gains one would encounter around them. But instead of thinking that I am this body, one is who is thinking I am a living entity, then Jivera Surupaya Krishna Nityadas. One understands that I am an eternal servant of Krishna, and everything and anything that I get in this material world is for the benefit of serving Krishna. But in the material consciousness, what is one thinking? That I am so and so. They are thinking I am this body. And various upadhis related to the body becomes apparent. So one is thinking that I am a man, I am an American, I am an Indian, and so forth. And a pauper is proud of his penny. We all know this. So whatever upadhi one has, one becomes very proud of that upadhi. But that is where envy happens. If someone else has greater upadhi, then one becomes envious. And that is the cause of all the anarthas. And also, what happens? That when tries to acquire various things to enjoy sense gratification, thinking that all these senses is a part of me, but they are not part of us. So we are in this world, not of this world. So this has been explained. And when material gains happen in due course of time, one should understand that they are to be engaged in Lord's service. And this is the example Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is setting. In his prayers, he's saying, "My dear Lord, I am yours, and everything that belongs to me has to be used in your service. So please keep me engaged and keep everything engaged for your pleasure." So they're different. Like third category person would say, "No, I've worked very hard. This is mine." People love this verse in Bhagavad Gita, "Karmaneya vadhikaraste," that you have the right to perform your duties. But then when people are performing the duties, they're thinking they are karma yogis, but they're very much attached to the fruits of the labor. Mahaphaleshu kadachana, which is the next phase, that you are not entitled to the fruits of your action. So when we realize that, wait a minute, we are making all this endeavor, why? Because this body doesn't really belong to us. It has been provided to us by the Lord. And human form of life is very rare. So we are, supposed to be using this human form of body to cross over this ocean of nascence by engaging in devotional service. So let's go to purport. There is very direct references from the Vedic literature that has been given here. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. We have already discussed that pure devotional service to the Lord is automatically followed by perfect knowledge and detachment from material existence. So we studied this in the previous verse. But there are others who consider that all kinds of different occupational engagements, including those of religion, are meant for material gain. The general tendency of any ordinary man in any part of the world is to gain some material profit in exchange for religious or any other occupational service. Even in the Vedic literatures, for all sorts of religious performances, an allurement of material gain is offered. And most people are attracted by such allurements or blessings of religiosity. Why are such so-called men of religion allured by material gain? Because material gain can enable one to fulfill desires, which in turn satisfies sense gratification. This cycle of occupational engagements, including so-called religiosity, followed by material gain, and material gain followed by fulfillment of desires, sense gratification is the general way for all sorts of fully occupied men. But in the statement of Sutta Goswami, as per the verdict of the Srimadbhagavatam, this is nullified by the present shloka. One should not engage himself in any sort of occupational service for material gain only, nor should material gain be utilized for sense gratification. How material gain should be utilized is described as follows, which is in the next mantra, the next verse. So here, let me quickly. So there are some important lessons. First of all, we should understand dharmasya apavargasya, that whatever occupation duty we perform should be performed for ultimate liberation. And we will also later on hear that there are three categories as how you are performing. Vadanti tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam avyayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaniti shabdate. So yes, we will be covering this verse later on. So those who are learned transcendentalists understand the absolute truth in three forms: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. So again, that ultimate liberation and absolute liberation on all these three categories can be considered on the absolute platform. Now, how do we understand this? Because Paramatma is in our heart guiding us. And by the mercy of Paramatma, we actually get shelter of a guru outside. So Chaitya Guru is also referred to as Paramatma. And he is the one who is the overseer and permitter. So whatever desires we have, he is the one who is sanctioning those. And he's also seeing how we are behaving. So he's also observing our behavior. While we also see the example where someone who's engaged in devotional service may think that they are engaged in devotional service very nicely, and then material energies, lesson 2, is going to test such a person who's engaged, test a devotee by giving various kind of material allurements. So the devotees may feel like all these material things are there. I should engage in sense gratification. That's the second half of this mantra. Kamo labhaya hismrata. So one should not use those material gains, allurements that are surrounding you in sense gratification, in kama, lobha. So again, we have to be very, very careful. Lesson number one, activity should be targeted for liberation, right? Engaging in devotional service to reawaken our Krishna consciousness and love of Godhead. So again, that's the focus, lesson number one. Second, even though we are engaged in various material activities, understand that Maya is very powerful. She is going to test us by giving allurements and any material gains during engagement in devotional service. They should not be engaged in sense gratification. That's the second lesson. Then somebody will say, wait a minute, I've got all these facilities. I'm getting people are donating all these things. How should I engage these things? They should be engaged in the service of the master of the senses, Lord Rishikesha. Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. So we have to understand that that is the purpose of everything, ourselves as well as everything that belongs around us should be engaged in Lord's service. Now, is there a story in Srimadbhagavatam somebody could say that could tell us? Yes, we will go to that. But even, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, of all the Vaishnavas, the topmost Vaishnava is Lord Shambhu. And today is Shivratri. So how can we avoid a topic about, Lord Shiva and his glories? So today we'll cover a very small pastime where Lord Shiva wanted to engage with Krishna in a sweet, loving pastime. So once it just so happened that the demigoddesses got invitation because when Lord would perform Raslila with the gopis, these demigoddesses and all the heavenly residents, denizens, they would be flying in their planes and looking down, all this Raslila is being performed. They all had desire to engage, but then they felt like they're not qualified and Lord was not permitting them. So once it just so happened that Lord allows the demigoddesses, not the demigods, the demigoddesses, to join him in Raslila. At that time, Goddess Parvati comes to Lord Shiva. He says, you are such a nice bhakta, but see, I have been invited. And it's very interesting that when everyone is failing, and because everyone is failing even in making an attempt, and even our friends fail, it doesn't hurt so much. Like we fail, so you fail, that's okay. You can sympathize each other. But if we are failing, we are not getting that. But a very dear person, a friend of ours, gets something that we were desiring, then it really hurts at times in material consciousness. That is true, right? And Lord Shiva is like the topmost Vaishnava, and he's being teased by his beloved Srimati Parvati, his wife. She is saying that I am going to Rasa Leela, you are going to stay here. You stay meditating while I enjoy in the Rasa dance. Lord Shiva, he is disturbed. It's like he's thinking that what happens sometimes, friends, when they have such scenario, many of you may have seen or heard such stories where all friends failed, but then one friend passed and he didn't just pass, he topped. So all the other friends, they were like thinking, how could that be? We were like, couldn't even pass, and this person, he topped the class. How could that be? And it really hurts at times. So this is exactly how Lord Shiva is feeling. He's devising a plan. I'm going to participate in Ras Leela. Now, great grandson of Lord Krishna, Vrajanath, he also comes to know of this. He's like, how can I enter this Ras Leela? So this is not the one that happened at Kurukshetra with the, 16,100 queens and the gopis. That was another incident. That's a different pastime of Lord Krishna. So here, this is happening in Vrindavan. Where the Yamuna is there, the cool breeze is there, the, forest, Vrindavan forest, and beautiful lotus aromas flowing, and full moon is glowing. So in this mood, such a nice environment is set up. And now Lord Shiva is like, he became impatient. So he and Vajranath, they team up. Sometimes when people who are getting defeated, they think, maybe there is strength in numbers. So let's unite, let's make a plan. And they decide that, yes, we will dress up as ladies and we will enter the Ras Leela Mandal. So Lord Shiva and Vajranath, they enter the mandal, and as soon as Rasa dance was about to begin, Lord, he expands himself to be with each of the ladies. And as soon as he sees Vajranath and Lord Shiva, he immediately catches them. He's like, Vajranath, you just leave. Immediately. Actually curses him also. That's another thing. But it's a blessing in disguise. Even that curse is more of a blessing in disguise. Because of that curse, we are able to see the amazing, Shri Shri Radha Govindji, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohanji, Shri Shri Radha Gopinathji. So in reality, when Lord says something, even his curse is a blessing. But that doesn't mean we should offend him. Now, Lord Shiva, he had entered Raslila to enjoy in Raslila, while everyone else is entering Raslila for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. So sometimes he is showing by his example that in the garb of devotional service, one should not try to satisfy one's senses. So Lord Krishna, now understanding that Lord Shiva is the topmost Vaishnava and he is entering for sense enjoyment, how could that be? I have to engage him in his service. So Lord Krishna asks Lord Shiva to guard the Rasa Mandala, the whole arena where this Rasa dance is going on. Now, somebody could say, wait a minute, why is Lord Shiva given this assignment? So, we actually see a lot of examples in the material world. Sometimes one who is a very skilled thief is hired by the authorities to catch other thieves. That's another one example. Sometimes a spy is used to catch another spy or spy on another spy. So here, Lord Shiva, he was able to enter Rasamandal without being detected, and Lord Krishna is Paramatma in everyone's heart, so he could immediately catch him. But then he said, you are such a good, cheater. You're able to get into this Rasamandal. You be the guard so that no other could cheat and get into the Rasamandal. So Lord Shiva on occasions is dressed as Gopi. And the Shivling is dressed as Gopi even in Vrindavan, and he is referred to as Gopeshwara, that he is the guardian of the gopis. He's the lord of the gopis. From that perspective, that he's protecting the Rasmandal. Now, what's the significance? Somebody could say, oh, Lord Krishna, he kept Lord Shiva. What's the significance of Lord Shiva? Is there another lesson in it? Yes, there is another lesson. That if one wants to enter Golok Vrindavan, if one wants to enter the spiritual realm, they have to first take shelter of Lord Shiva. They have to get the mercy of Lord Shiva. So that's why it is said that Lord Shiva is not just the topmost Vaishnava, but he is Ashutosh. He is very easily pleased. And so when devotees, when they are praying to Lord Krishna, they understand that Lord Shiva is so dear to Lord Krishna, they pray to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva becomes very easily pleased and immediately grants all the wishes, whatever the devotee desires. But then also Lord Shiva is very careful when he's giving his blessing to devotees versus when he's giving his blessing to non-devotees. That's also very interesting. He gave Pashupati Shastra to Ravan, which caused the fall down of Ravan. He gave 1,000 arms to Sahasrarjun, which caused fall down of Sahasrarjun. He gave 1,000 arms to Banasur, which caused fall down. But then, except for 996 arms were cut off by Lord Krishna himself. And Banasur was left with those 4 arms. So here, Lord Shiva's blessing is very easily obtained, especially when we are seeking Lord Krishna's service. And when Lord Shiva is blessed, all other demigods are blessed. It's like when the president is blessed, all other ministers and the cabinet folks, they are happy. Yes, Devi, would you like to add?
So would you like to briefly also mention about the prachetas, how
Yes.
he blessed the prachetas and how they advanced spiritually? So because you gave examples of some of the demonic personalities,
Yes.
but if devotee personalities receive blessings, then how do they benefit from it?
She has told part of my story, by the way. Hare Krishna. So, King Prachin Bharishat, he was the emperor of the world, and he had 10 sons. They were referred to as Prachetas. And he said, my dear sons, before you can take over the kingdom, you have to become qualified. It's not that you're son of a very rich person, you become a rich person. You have to be qualified to become that, take on that position. You have to, you know, do tapa, austerities. You have to do sacrifices. You have to do yagyas. Sacrifice means yagya. And you have to do various kind of austerities as well as charity. So yagya, tapa, and dan, they should all be performed even by pure souls. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, because it purifies even the good, pure souls. So the Prachetas were on their journey, and it just so happened that as they were on their journey, they saw Lord Shiva appearing with all his Shiv Ganas and the rishis and various demigods. And they immediately paid obeisances to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva, realizing that they are going on to become qualified, they are seeking blessing of Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He blessed them and he gave them Rudra Gita. These are very sweet verses in Srimadbhagavatam. And he said, please take on your journey and recite this, and you will be able to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prachetas, they decided to chant Rudra Gita, and this is Satya Yuga. You have to understand also the time where the lifespan is 100,000 years. And they, 10 of them, were meditating underwater, not on top of a hill, not on, land, not knee deep, underwater, fully merged, in the waters. And they were meditating and reciting Rudra Gita for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After 10,000 years, Lord appeared. And he said, I am very happy with you 10 brothers because you work very nicely together. You collaborate very nicely. So when devotees will work together, Lord is very pleased. Of course, every father is pleased when all the sons are working together for the pleasure of the father. Yet at the same time, Prachin Bharishat, their father, what is he doing? He's thinking, my sons, they will become qualified, they will come home, and I'll have to hand over all this kingdom to them. So I should plan for my next destination. And yes, Vedas came from, Brahma Hridaya Adi Kaviye. In very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, when Vyasadeva is praying, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yato Anvad Trishchatrishva Bhikaswarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kaviya Muhyanti Yada Surya Tejovari Mridam Yatha Vinimayoti Sargo Amrisha Dhamna Sena Sada Sirastanu Nekam Satyam Param Dhimahi. So Lord has imparted Vedas to Brahma through heart. He is residing in the heart as Paramatma, and he has conveyed Vedas. So sometimes people say, Vedas coming from the Supreme Personality of God. We should engage in Vedic system and try to see. Now we also have to understand that Vedas are written for all kind of living entities in the human species form. There are 4 lakh type of 8.4 billions. That 0.4 million, which is 4 lakhs, are the human being types, the categories of human beings. And there are various categories because we are under different influences of material modes, different combinations. So how can we understand what Vedas contain? Well, think of a supermarket, right? You have a mall, and there are people going in the mall to some of them going to get groceries, some are going to get clothes, some are going to eat in the restaurant, some are going to watch, a movie in a theater. All kind of different allurements are there, different facilities are there. And then there will be diamond stores, some jewelry stores there. If you see, you'll find a lot of crowd, especially if there's sale going on, in clothes area or electronics area. There'll be a lot of people in those areas because that's like the craze, the current craze. If you see the diamond store, the jewelry store, you'll find only few people there. So that's the state of Vedas. They are providing solutions for all kind of living entities. But what does Lord Krishna instruct Arjuna? Naster gunya bhava Arjuna. He's saying that you have to become rise above the three gunyas. So again, Vedas refer to the three guna. Trigunin Vishya Veda. So the subject matter of Vedas are referring to the three modes of material nature. Mode of goodness, Sattva Guna, mode of passion, Rajaguna, mode of ignorance, Tamaguna. But you have to rise, Nestor Guna Bhavajuna, you have to rise above the three modes of material nature, which means you have to become transcendental. So somebody will say, wait a minute, how do I become transcendental to this? Doesn't really make sense. How do I get out of this? Because I'm caught in this particular cycle. So it's very easy, my dear devotees. You know, when sometimes we are on a stormy day, it's cloudy, somebody says, is the sun out? We say, no, the sun is not yet out. Well, the sun is out, we just cannot see it because uh, the clouds are covering it. And sometimes there's rain and there's some, wind blowing and all that. But when we have taken the plane ride, the plane rises above and goes above the clouds. At that point, what happens? We can see the sun nicely shining. All that stuff is happening is below. That is how we are able to detach ourselves, delink ourselves from the current situation and engaging in devotional service. We can say, oh, see, all these situations created around me by the material energy to cause different kind of allurements to disturb me and be engaged in pavarga, parishram, fena, bhaya, mrityu, and of course, bandha. So all this pavarga, bhama, that's going on. So King Prachin Bharishat, he was following Vedas. And he said, well, I have to start my next journey. I should be prepared. I was emperor of the world. I would not take something that's less than the emperor of the world. What should I do? Sometimes people have these kind of desires that I'm enjoying already here. Next place, I want to be at a better position. Will a CEO of a company want to be the janitor of the company? No. He wants to be the CEO of the best company ever there, right? So King Prachin Maharisha says, maybe I should perform so many sacrifices that I can go to the heavenly planets that have bigger kingdom than what I have here. And so he was engaged in various kind of yajnas. Now, it's very interesting that even the yajnas have to be performed based on time, place, and circumstances. He was following Vedas. Vedas said a quick pathway is by sacrificing animals. So he was sacrificing animals after animals after animals. And seeing his state, Devashi Narad became bewildered. They said, this king really needs help. He's the emperor of the world. What is he doing? So he goes to King Prachin Bharishat. And he tells him a very sweet story. Because of the time, we won't cover the story here. But basically, he's telling the king's story in an allegorical way. So Puranjani's story. And the king is like interestingly hearing. And at that time, Devashi Narad, he says, Sage Narad, he says, are you looking up there? So Sage Narad he's also referred to as Deva Darshan. That only when he desires to be seen, he can be seen. But Deva Darshan has also another meaning, which he can make you see things beyond your general capabilities. So he's showing the king that all these animals, their souls are lingering around on the ceiling, covering all the ceiling, waiting for. It's like they're waiting for you to die. Because as soon as you will die, you get that, small body, 2.5 foot old, and they will pull out your intestines, they will pluck you, and they will kill you time and again, make you go through all the pain that you made them go through. Now, this is scary because King Prachin Bharishat was not aware that there is such a reaction. So, my dear devotees, we have to understand what is the proper yajna and what is the purpose of the yajna. Here, as per this verse, we understood Labhu Kamaya Hismrita. So, we should not, the legislators have said, we should not be engaging the material gains in sense gratification. And if you are performing sacrifices, then they should be performed for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. Right? So there is a peace formula in Bhagavad Gita 5.29, where it is clearly identified that all sacrifices, austerities, yajna, uh, tap, and dan, all of these should be performed for the pleasure of the Lordship. And there is time, place, and circumstances aspect. So, Kriteta Dhyayate Vishwam, Krita Yug, one could meditate. That was the yajna for that time, because one was austere. All four legs of dharma were established: austerity, cleanliness, mercy, truthfulness. All four legs of religion were there. So one could perform austerities, and how many years? Tens of thousands of years, dear devotees. They would perform and they could attain the ultimate goal, liberation, apavarga, that we are discussing today. They can go back home, back to Godhead. But after Satyuga and finished, one of the legs, the austerity, austerity was broken. But cleanliness was still there. So now you could perform fire sacrifices. And this is what King Prachin Bharishat was engaged in, but he was misdirected. He was thinking by doing this, he will be able to enjoy, but actually he was creating a path to hellish condition for himself. You know, what's the use of going to heaven when you have been tormented so badly? So, in hell. So this is where we have to be very, very careful. That even in Treta Yuga, fire sacrifices were performed for thousands of years, and the mantras were tested by sacrificing an animal, and an animal would immediately walk out as a human being. This particular aspect was not known to King Prachin Bharishat. He was just sacrificing animals after animals. Yes, Devi?
So very quickly, I wanted to mention sometimes due to ignorance, people argue endlessly, not knowing the complete picture from the Shastras, that why Brahmins, the great learned scholars were chanting mantras and offering animals in the fire sacrifice. They justify that example saying it is okay to eat meat in current times. So just you can add a line to that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we have to be careful what we are doing, because every action has a consequential reaction to it, except for a karma. And we'll come down to that very shortly. So Treta Yuga passes. What happens? Even cleanliness goes away. Now things are not very clean, but there's still two legs there: mercy and truthfulness. So in Dwapar Yuga, Paricharyayam. So Kriteta Dhyayate Vishwam, meditation, one attains perfection through meditation. Tretayam Yajato Makhe, by yajnas, fire sacrifices, one attains perfection. Dwapare Paricharyayam. Paricharyayam refers to visiting holy places, pilgrimage. And at holy places, that's where the worship of the Lordship is performed. So sometimes it's also referred directly that Ach Vigraha are served. So the pujan, archana is done during this time. So in Dwapar Yuga, by doing that, and the beautiful examples like Mahatma Vidur, Lord Balaram himself, they go on, Hare Krishna, they go on this particular journey and to teach us how we have to take on this journey. And of course, Arjuna also did earlier, but his was because of an offense he had committed, and there was a prana that 1 year one will have to be on journey. So here, but what is in Kali age? In Kali age, even that mercy, the third leg is broken, only one leg. Truthfulness is staying there. And as time is passing, even that leg is becoming weaker and weaker. So, Kala Tad Hari Kirtanat. So in Kali age, by doing Hari Kirtan, this is what we are doing, my dear devotees, that we are glorifying the Lordship. And that is the yajna for this age. Sometimes we also say it is the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, धर्मस्य अपवर्गस्य नातो अर्थायोपकल्पते नार्थस्य धर्मकान्तस्य कामो लाभाय स्मृतः So whatever occupational activities one performs should be performed for ultimate liberation, not for sense gratification. And when one is fully engaged in devotional service for ultimate liberation, there may still be allurements coming in the form of material benefits, and one should not use those facilities for one's own, bodily satisfaction, self gratification. Don't get allured. Devi, would you like to add anything?
That's it, Prabhu. I wanted to just quickly, as a gentle reminder, I wanted to mention we have one more verse, but also the example of prachetas which you were giving. Did you get the chance to
Mhm.
wrap it around the main message, like how
Yes.
prachetas were engaged in finally devotional service?
Yes. So when Lord appeared, he said, first, I'm very happy with you, 10 brothers. They were performing as per the time, place, and circumstances, and they were working together. And he said that there was an Apsara with a sage, Kandu. She had, Pratiloma, she had a daughter, and that daughter has been kept by the trees and was being cared by the moon, and she will become your wife. So sometimes people think, oh, Draupadi was married to 5 brothers. How could that be? There is this lady, she is married to 10 brothers. And, you know, very nicely, they carry out their duties and for the pleasure of the Lordship. So this is where they satisfy Lord Krishna and of Lord Vishnu, and Lord blesses them, and so they become qualified to be the combined emperor of the world. So again, those 10 brothers, they rule very nicely, carrying out their father legacy. And King Prachin Bharishad, when Devashi Narad says, reveals to him through this revelation that all these animals are just waiting, it's like, what should I do? Right? This is the next action. Now I'm in trouble. What should I do? How do I get out of this trouble? And you want to approach someone who can guide you. And there can never be a better guide than Devashi Narad. So Devashi Narad at that time gives him this revelation that you have to engage in devotional service. And my dear Lord, of all the sacrifices, Japa Namas, again, Lord's holy name is the topmost. Actually, chanting of the holy name is the topmost sacrifice, irrespective of which age you live in. That is a very important lesson for us to learn. Now, let's cover the next verse, because there is, Srila Prabhupada in the purport said that there is, what should one do is revealed in the next verse. If we are not engaging in sense gratification, Srimadbhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, verse 10. Kamasya nendriya priti labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa nato yascheha karma bhihi. Kamasya nendriya priti. Kamasya. So it's like, one should not desire for what? Na, ne is na, indriya. That becomes nendriya. So not for sense, priti is gratification. So one should not desire engagement in any sense gratification. Labho jiveta yavata. So what should one be looking for? What kind of labh should one be looking for? Just to sustain oneself. We don't have to hoard too many things. And in this regard, I'm reminded of a beautiful story where there were two friends, Premnath and Ramnath. Now, Ramnath was they were, as when they were children, they would play together and so forth. And in due course time, Ramnath's father became very rich. Premnath's father stayed very poor, like a farmer. And Ramnath became a very big landlord. But then they were, friends from childhood. So he would treat Premnath just like his very close friend, very dear friend. So they would meet every day and laugh together, talk together. And but one thing was disturbing Premnath. He's like, who's rich? I'm rich. Who's happy? He's happy. He always looks jolly. And I have to worry about so many things. So his secretary, his Munshi, he was observing that, my boss is disturbed. He's like, my dear, sir, why did you give some treasure in gift to Premnath and then see what happens? So Ramnath thinks it's a nice idea. So he invites Premnath. He's like, I would like to give you a gift. Premnath says, sure, why not? Dadati pratigrahanati, we should exchange gifts, give each other's gifts. That's priti lakshanam, that increases love in our relationship. So Ramnath gives a whole chest of jewels and gold to his friend in gift. Premnath is surprised that so much wealth has been received, so he's okay. I'll take it because it's given in gift. I cannot, give it back because he may feel bad. So Premnath takes it home. Now he is living in a hut. Hut walls are made from mud. The stone have been stacked together with mud. The roof is made up of thatched, bamboo leaves and so forth. And he's thinking at night, if somebody knows about all this wealth, they would, break the walls and they would, take everything. So Premnath could not sleep all through the night because he was worried that this wealth that he has now will be taken away, stolen by someone. And then he couldn't sleep all night. Next morning, he picked up that chest and went back to Ramnath's home. He's like, please keep it. Take your gift back because I lost my happiness. I lost my sleep. So whatever purpose we are engaging in, it is only to sustain ourselves. All occupational duties should be directed to just sustainment. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. And what's the purpose of this life? Is to inquire about the absolute truth. So that's tattva. Tattva means truth, but then tattva jigyasa, Brahma jigyasa. That is the first inquiry. Why am I here? Why am I suffering here? Why is there so much pain in this material world? Why are people losing jobs? Why is stock market crashing? All these things are happening around us. And they are not supposed to be disturbing us because when they will not disturb us when we are engaged in devotional service. Otherwise, these material beings, they are running around crazily. And nartho yas cheha karma bhi. And not that is anything that we have gathered because of the occupational activities should be used for, one's sense gratification. So nothing else should be the goal. Everyone should be looking at attaining the absolute truth as one's goal in life. So life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life of self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. Nothing else should be the goal of one's life. Ko kamula bhai smrita, we heard in the previous one, and similarly, nata yascheha karma bihi. So it's the same thing. There is it's saying that one should not engage in devotional service, and here it's saying that one should not keep anything else like that. Sense gratification to be the goal of one's life. Purport? Yes, Devi?
So, Prabhuji, we have like just 10 minutes left and purport is little big.
Okay.
Maybe you can summarize the purport with whatever, if you have a story with it.
Yes, I do have a story with it.
So we can summarize the
Yes.
lessons in the
So here, there are mainly two lessons. That whatever we desire is our desire that creates some kind of mallow, and we engage in those kind of activities that give us that mallow. These desires should not be directed for sense gratification because it's diverting our attention. Instead of the soul, we are looking at pleasing the body. Body is like the cage and the soul is like the bird in the cage. We don't want to decorate the cage nicely or clean the cage nicely. We have to take care of the bird, the soul, us, who's inside this body, right? So that is the true us, the living entity, and the living entity will only feel satisfied when the living entity is engaged. We are engaged in devotional service. Now, healthy life is important, and also mind matters. Sometimes people say mind does not matter, don't matter the mind. That's an ignorance. We do understand that the scriptures tell us that all yoga system is to tame the mind, because antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevram yah prayati sa yad bhavam yati nastatra samshaya. Lord Krishna is saying in 8.5 verse in Bhagavad Gita that at the last moment of life, one who remembers me alone, 8.6, that person can quickly return back to me. But if we are not meditating Lord Krishna, whatever we are meditating on, that will become our destination. Sometimes people look at, we talked about Vedas. Now, Vedas are also Chaturvarnam Maya Shishtam, Lord Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita that all four Varnas have come to me. So, what are the four Varnas? We have Brahman, who are considered the spiritual masters for humanity. Then we have Kshatriyas, the administrators who are taking care of all the ruling and controlling and managing things. Then we have Vaishyas, the mercantile man, the farmers, the cow protectors, cattle caregivers. And then we have Shudras, who are the servants of all these living entities, all the three other kinds. Now, the three kinds, Brahman, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, they are Dvija. Again, they are twice born. Shudras are not twice born because they are not at that level. And sometimes people try to make distinction that, Brahman is better than Kshatriya. Well, they are in the mode of goodness, so they have higher qualification, and they should use that qualification in the right purpose. We heard about prachetas were going on to become qualified to carry out the ruling. But then if they don't carry out the ruling nicely, then they have failed in their mission. So one should understand, and this particular verse talks about that one should not engage in sense gratification, but rather sustain oneself and engage fully in devotional service. So in this regard, there's a beautiful story that once there used to be a king by the name Ambrish Maharaj. Many of you may already know Ambrish Maharaj was a great devotee of the Lord, and he would engage on all 9 processes of devotional service. He was such a dedicated devotee that he would all the time, he would walk to the temple, he would use his limbs, legs to walk to the temple, hands to touch the devotees, to pay obeisances in front of the lordships. He would accept only prasad. He would smell the tulsi leaves and the flowers offered to the lordships. He would hear Hari Katha, Hari Kirtan all the time, and he would constantly love seeing the beautiful deity form of the Lordship. When we see the material beauty, it causes agitation, heat in our eyes. But when we look at the beautiful form of the Lordship, that is fully satisfying. Now, Amrish Maharaj was in Vrindavan and he was performing his Ekadashi Vrat. We all were observing Vijaya Ekadashi recently. So he was engaged in observing Ekadashi, and came Dwadashi time, about to break the fast, and suddenly who appears with his 10,000 disciples? Durvasa Muni. When Durvasa Muni appears, we were talking about Lord Shiva. He's an expansion of Lord Shiva, Durvasa Muni. So we all know that Annapurna and Dadichi, not Dadichi, so again, she had these 3 personalities as her sons. Anusuya, sorry, thank you. Yeah. So, who's an expansion of Lord Brahma? Soma. He's the ruler of moon planet currently. Expansion of Lord Vishnu is Lord Dattatreya. And expansion of Lord Shambhu, Lord Shiva is Durvasa Muni. He appears now, Atiti Devo Bhava. Atithi, one who can combine without being invited. That's what Atithi means. And Atithi Devo Bhava means he's like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's how Amrish Maharaj immediately understood. He was about to break his fast, but then he saw Durvasa Muni coming. And he immediately invited him, please have prasad. And Durvasa Muni said, well, before prasad, let me go and get cleaned up and get ready, and then I'll come. Now, Durvasa Muni, he went with his disciples to take bath. So, Durvasa Muni is taking bath, and the Muhurt is passing. So at that time, Amrish Maharaj requested Brahmanas what to do. If the Muhurt passes, the time passes, the auspicious time to break the fast, then the whole fast becomes nullified. They say, my dear Rajan, my dear king, if you take few drops of water, water is such an element that you can break the fast with the water, but at the same time, you have not eaten anything, so it's not breaking. So water can be, it's all about the consciousness that you're taking water to break your fast. And that way you will be safe and you will not offend Durvasa Muni. Now, when Durvasa Muni comes, he says, "Oh, Amrish Maharaj seems to have broken his fast. That means he has eaten before me." He becomes angry. Ashutosh doesn't just mean one who's pleased easily, it also means one who becomes angry easily too, very quickly. And so he immediately becomes angry. He calls Amrish Maharaj bad names. He picks up his jata, the metal locks, and he throws it on the ground, and immediately a big Rakshas appears. And we have seen similarly Lord Shiva doing. He says, "Devour this king," to eat up, to destroy Amrish Maharaj. He's giving instruction to this. And as soon as this personality approaches Amrish Maharaj, what happens? Like the rays of thousand suns appear. Who is appearing? Sudarshan Chakra. It appears with the glaze of thousands of suns and immediately burns this Rakshas personality to ashes. But Sudarshan, Su is like very, Darshan is nice revelation. Sudarshan Chakra has one great quality. It doesn't just destroy the immediate cause, it also destroys the root cause. And who's the root cause of this personality, the Rakshas to appear? It was Durvasa Muni. So it starts chasing Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni is now running for his life. He starts running to outer planets. He's running to, Swargloka, still saying that Sudarshan Chakra is chasing him. His back is burning because of the heat coming from Sudarshan Chakra. He's running to Brahmaloka. He's asking for help. Nobody is able to help me. So much so, in such a personality, Durvasa Muni is, he's able to enter Vaikuntha. He's going to Lord Vishnu and says, "My dear Lord, please ask your Sudarshan Chakra to stop and forgive me." And Lord Vishnu says, "I am actually under the control of my devotees." So even Lord Vishnu says that I cannot save you. Only personality who can save you is Amrish Maharaj. So Durvasa Muni comes running back again to Vrindavan where Amrish Maharaj was performing his fast. And now Amrish Maharaj had only taken few drops of water to break his fast. But he stayed hungry. He had not accepted a single grain till Durvasa Muni returns, and it has already taken a whole earthly year being in that state for Amrish Maharaj. And Durvasa Muni immediately falls at the lotus feet of Amrish Maharaj and asks for forgiveness. And Amrish Maharaj immediately picks him up. He's like, "What are you doing? You're a Brahmana. You're the spiritual master of the humanity. You cannot do that." And then Amrish Maharaj prays to Sudarshan Chakra to please forgive Durvasa Muni. And at that time, Durvasa Muni becomes so happy. Not just that his life is saved, but this is a great revelation because of Sudarshan Chakra. That Amrish Maharaj is not a normal Kshatriya as he appears externally. He is a great devotee. So, my dear devotees, we have to understand that devotees can be in any form. They could be sitting right next to you, but completely covered. That's why sometimes a word avadhuta is being used to describe devotees. That they are completely carefree and completely hidden from your vision. And they are not so much interested in revealing how great devotees they are, because a great devotee always thinks that how low devotees they are. They consider everyone else as devotee. They never consider themselves as devotees. That's another quality. So again, why? Because devotees understand Jivera Suruphoya Krishna Nityadas. So we are eternal servant of Krishna. A servant, how can a servant try to compare their service from someone else's service? They think, "Oh, everyone is performing so many wonderful services. Let me try to improve my service." That's the only mood they carry. And for the pleasure of the Lordship. So here today we covered two stories related with Lord Shiva. One of Durvasa Muni, an expansion of Lord Shiva. Another of Lord Shiva also teaching us that when we engage apparently in devotional service, if our motive is for sense enjoyment, then even it needs correction. But by the mercy of Krishna, Krishna is so forgiving that he actually redirects it, and just like he engaged Lord Shiva as Gopeshwara, as the guardian of the Rasa Mandal, and that is for the pleasure of the Lordship, those devotional service happens. Hare Krishna. Gantaraj Srimadbhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavad ki jai, Ananta Kori Vaishnav ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Any questions or comments? Hare Krishna. Devi?
All right. So these verses were wonderful reminders for all of us. Whoever hears, whoever reads, are engaged in the devotional service of Shravanam. And the top three devotional services listed in the
Yes.
Navida, 9 process of devotional service are Shravanam, Kirtanam,
Kirtanam,
Vishnu,
Vishnu,
Smaranam.
Smaranam.
So, in this chapter, Prabhuji, last time you shared from verse number 8 that, whatever activities a man performs, actually occupational activities